Discovered, the Sinister painting haunted by a terrifying curse and unexplained secret. Sarah Thompson felt her heart race as she stepped over the threshold of their new home in Millstone, the air thick with excitement and a hint of dread. The walls, peeling with age, seemed to lean in, whispering secrets of lives lived and lost. She left chaos behind, but as the breeze gusted through the open door, it felt like something was waiting just beyond the flickering light bulbs. With her two young children, 8-year-old Lily and 6-year-old Max, she hoped for safety in this disheveled suburb, unaware of the darkness lurking beneath. As the boxes piled high in the corners, Sarah's eyes caught sight of the attic's rickety door, barely ajar. It beckoned her, a siren's call of forgotten history. Climbing the creaking stairs, she discovered relics shrouded in cobwebs. But one painting hooked her, an enormous, sinister piece splattered with murky colors, the central figure extending shadowy tendrils, its features intentionally blurred. The description of a reclusive local artist's descent into madness echoed in her mind. Yet Sarah, with a naive optimism, hung it proudly in her living room, craving a connection to this place, hoping it might uplift their spirits. Once the last nail was hammered, the air shifted. Shadows elongated, flickering lights cast erratic patterns, and a whispering breeze flowed from the canvas. The soft sound of laughter echoed through the halls at night, chaotic, hollow, as if the house itself was taunting her. Exhausted, she brushed it off as the stress of moving. But soon, hushed conversations among her neighbors ignited a seed of doubt. "Stay away from the artist's legacy," one warned, pale and trembling. "It's got a curse that twists the mind." She ventured outside, heart racing, trying to engage with the neighbors, a disheveled group with haunted eyes and static-filled whispers. "Pay attention to the shadows," one murmured. "They reveal what's lurking beneath." But Sarah's resolve to shield her children from negativity only grew stronger. Yet, the shadows twisted unnaturally, and figures blurred in the corners of her yard. The dread clawed at her sanity. When she sought help from the authorities, dismissive laughter echoed in her ears. "Just the after-effects of your move," they insisted. Fear crept in like a thief, and doubt spiraled like a tornado were her nightmares bleeding into her daily life. Desperate for answers, she roamed the streets, heart pounding against her ribs, piecing together the artist's horrific past from the locals, a tragic tale wrapped in madness. With each shard of broken memory, a question loomed. What if the painting was a doorway? A beacon for darkness to sweep in? One night, the air thickened, electricity fizzled, plunging her into suffocating darkness. The shadows from her nightmares unfurled around her, pulsating with a sinister intent. Sarah clutched her children, cold terror nipping at her neck. Just then, a voice broke through the silence. "Will you unravel the curse or let it consume you?" Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. A shiver skittered across her spine. Her breath hitched, the painting pulsing with an ominous life of its own. As dread clawed at her mind, she felt icy fingers of despair wrapping around her. The shadowy figure from the canvas materialized just beyond her door, deepening the abyss of terror that threatened to swallow her entire world whole. Would she and her children eclipse this haunting specter or become mere footnotes in the dark tale of Millstone? The voice hung in the air, thick with malice, coiling around Sarah like a serpent ready to strike. Instinctively, she stepped back, her heart pounding like a war drum. She glanced at Lily and Max, their innocent faces twisted in fear, eyes wide and shimmering with unshed tears. "Mommy, what's happening?" Max whimpered, clutching his sister's hand, a fragile lifeline in the sea of shadows. "Just stay close," she murmured, though her own voice trembled. The darkness seemed to thicken, suffocating, an entity of its own. Gritting her teeth, Sarah focused on the voice's ultimatum. "What do you mean, unravel the curse?" She whispered into the void, with no answer. the air buzzed with electricity, and the bitter tang of fear enveloped her. Screams echoed in her mind, shrieks of the artist, maybe. She dismissed the sensation, refusing to let her imagination spiral into panic. "We are safe, we have to be safe," she told herself. Her resolve wavered against the backdrop of growing dread. She made her way back to the living room, the eerie painting looming large, colors swirling like storm clouds ready to unleash fury. The tendrils from the figure reached out, almost beckoning, inviting her to see beyond. A shudder coursed through her. What if the painting truly was alive, a malevolent force waiting to envelop her family? "Stay here," she instructed her children softly, more as a mantra for herself than them. Each step toward the painting felt like wading through a nightmare. She pressed her fingertips against the canvas, heart racing. The moment her skin touched the surface, a surge of cold energy shot through her. Visions flickered, disjointed whispers, screams of torment, and echoes of despair. She yanked her hand back as if scalded. "One way or another." The voice materialized again, deep and guttural, resonating from the very walls of her new home. The shadows danced, morphing into indistinguishable shapes. Panicking, Sarah turned to find her children, but they were gone. Her heart dropped into a pit of icy dread. "Lily? Max?" She shouted, her voice wavering, cracking under the strain. With every step she took, the silence deepened, replaced by creeping noise, a relentless whispering, a chorus of tormented souls echoing all around her, urging her to run, to hide, but she had to find her children. "Look in the basement." The voice pleaded again. The floorboards creaked with urgency beneath her, and she raced toward the basement door, the hinges groaning as she threw it open. Jagged shadows shot out like claws, but Sarah pressed on. Descending into the darkness, she stumbled, her hands brushing against wet walls slick with fear. Every instinct told her to retreat, but she needed to find them. If the painting was a curse, did it claim the innocent? The thought sent a chill racing down her spine. A flicker of movement caught her eye. "Mommy!" Lily's voice ripped through the air, mingled with a wail she didn't recognize. It surged from the corner of the basement, a realm of shadow swallowing her children whole. "No!" Sarah screamed, lunging forward through the oppressive darkness, but the shadows split, closing around her in a creeping embrace. The buzzing intensified, as if the house itself was alive, pulsing with malevolence. "Will you seal their fate or save them?" The voice whispered, weaving through the air like smoke. The chilling question hung, a noose tightening around her mind. What must she do to break free? What if unraveling the curse meant sacrificing someone precious to her? As she grappled with the terrifying possibilities, a blinding light erupted in the darkness, illuminating the basement and revealing not just her children but a horrific secret lurking in plain sight. The revelation struck her like a thunderbolt. Could she truly unravel the curse before it consumed everything she loved? And that's when she saw it, an open door at the far end, shadows pulsating with life, leading deeper into the abyss. Was that the escape she needed, or another trap waiting to ensnare her? The light flickered like a dying star, casting sinister shadows against the damp walls of the basement. Sarah hesitated, the door's ominous silhouette beckoning her toward an unknown dread. Her heart raced, caught between the desperate cries of her children and the heavy weight of lurking terror. "Lily! Max!" She called out again, panic clawing at her throat. Their voices, muffled but unmistakably frightened, echoed from behind the pulsating shadows. "Mommy! We're scared!" Their cries rose and fell like a haunting melody, intertwining with the otherworldly whispers that seemed intent on luring her in. Clenching her fists, Sarah took a deep breath, steeling herself against the rising tide of fear. She had to get them out. She moved toward the door, each step feeling weighted, like wading through ominous waters. The shadows seemed to twist and slither, keeping a distance while still taunting her, swirling with malicious intent. "What choice will you make?" The voice slithered through her thoughts, a malevolent presence coaxing her. She paused at the threshold. What lay beyond? When she blinked, the shadows danced again, forming images that twisted her gut. Faces, body outlines twisted and contorted in agony. They screamed silently, urging her to reconsider. Was the curse tied to the door, or was it her only chance to save her children? "Mommy. Please." Lily's voice sliced through her hesitance, fragile and desperate. "Hang on. I'm coming." Fearing she had only moments left, Sarah threw the door open, revealing a narrow, winding staircase spiraling down into a deeper darkness. The air was thick, suffocating, bursting with the chill of despair. With one last glance back, she plunged into the abyss, each step echoed in the silence, her heart pounding louder than her footfalls. Sarah felt the walls close in as she descended, the familiar reassurance of light faded behind her. The whispers grew louder, swirling around her head, enveloping her like tendrils of smoke. The staircase opened into a cavernous chamber, the air damp and electric. Flickering torches mounted on the walls cast a ghastly glow over grotesque sculptures of twisted bodies, artful representations of torment, maybe? In the center was a vast pit, the shadows pulsating like a living thing, pulling her attention downward. "Lily! Max!" She screamed, dread creeping through her veins. Her children's cries reverberated, but were now saturated with a new sound, a chilling laughter layered beneath their fear, mocking her desperation. Suddenly, the pit erupted in a blinding light, and out poured shadowy figures, faces she had seen in the art above, twisted forms recounting their eternal suffering. They knelt at the edge of the pit, their hollow eyes fixated on her, a chorus of despair echoing in the darkness. It was as if they grasped the very foundations of her soul, drawing the life from her. "No!" she shouted, stumbling back in horror. The stone walls seemed to throb, as if fueled by her fear, feeding on it. The laughter intensified, taunting her as she felt her resolve begin to crack beneath the weight of despair. "What will you sacrifice?" The voice taunted once more, crystal clear now, dripping with malice. The figures advanced, their outstretched hands reaching for her, as if they wanted her to join them in their suffocating fate. With every fiber of her being screaming to flee, she couldn't abandon her children. Desperation surged through her. She stepped forward before them, feeling the pulse of the shadows and realizing that within their torment lay the answer to her escape, though it came with a horrific price. As she plunged deeper into the shadows, preparing to confront whatever darkness awaited, the world around her quaked. The pit began to churn violently, promising to swallow her whole. "Make your choice, Sarah." The voice roared, shattering the silence, echoing endlessly. What did she have left to lose? A frantic thought crossed her mind: what if the price wasn't solely her own? As the shadows thrashed against her, she felt the weight of the unknown thumping in her chest. Right. Then, a tiny voice called out through the chaos. "Mommy, help!" It was Lily, her cry plucking at Sarah's heartstrings, forcing her to confront a horrible truth. How was she supposed to break the curse when everything threatened to break her first? Would the darkness claim her children, or would she find a way to banish the evil that sought to drown them all? In the eye of the swirling chaos, she felt her resolve harden. "I will save them," she shouted defiantly, eyes now set on the rebelling shadows. But as the pit erupted in fury, Sarah realized she might have just stepped into the very trap designed to ensnare her, the price unknown. The shadows convulsed, shrieking in twisted harmony, and Sarah fought to hold her ground against their desperate pull. Each breath felt like sandpaper scraping against her throat, tension thrummed through her veins like an electric current. Her children were down there somewhere amidst the chaos. Were they trapped within this horrific curse? Or had the darkness already twisted their souls? "Mommy, please." Lily's voice was now a whisper, half buried beneath the rumbling of the pit. "Stay there. I'm coming." She shouted back, heart racing, adrenaline pounding in her ears. The figures crept closer, their hollow eyes gleaming like hungry, predatory beasts. They looked familiar, faces she recognized from the tormenting sculptures above. These were the lost souls, prisoners of this wretched place. They all shared one thing, a fate worse than death, and now their eyes bore into Sarah with a knowing desperation. "What are you willing to give, Sarah?" The voice slithered from the pit, each syllable dripping with malice. Your children. Or perhaps your memories, your sanity. With every word, the environment shifted. The cold air grew thick and stifling, vibrating with promises of despair. Shadows grasped for her, their icy fingers brushing her skin, sending ripples of terror through her body. She shook her head violently, her hair whipping like a frenzied banner in the wind. No. I want to let you take them. The words thundered out as she stepped unervingly towards the pit, propelled by sheer instinct. Suddenly, the ground quivered beneath her feet, cracked spiderwebbing outward. A low growl rumbled from deep within the chasm, as if the very heart of darkness itself had awakened. Sarah teetered at the edge, peering into the swirling abyss. Could she see them? Was that Lily's bright hair, or merely an illusion? Help us! Max's voice broke through the din, spear piercing her heart with parent's love turned to horror. Each scream burrowed into her, turning her resolve into a weapon. She felt the pit's pull weakening. Could she disrupt its power? Maybe it will take more than a sacrifice, she murmured to herself, desperate to find an answer. I could fight it, but how? As if responding to her thoughts, shadows recoiled, revealing an old painting hanging just opposite the pit. Its colors were muted and dark, shadows swirling on a canvas that exuded an unsettling aura. It depicted a family, a woman and 2 children, with eyes that mirrored her own. Dark clouds loomed above them, wild winds entangling their forms, but the faces carried an eerily peaceful expression. Mommy! Get us out! The laughter echoed around her, a cruel symphony of mockery. With every heartbeat, a truth sunk deeper. It was a trap. A trick meant to ensnare her hope until there was nothing left. Jerked by the force of a reckoning that clawed at her mind, Sarah turned toward the painting, sudden realization crashing over her. How could this twisted work of art hold the key? No, no, no! Panic gripped Sarah, pushing her forward. Time stretched, skipping like a stone across a dark lake, as she reached for the painting. Her fingers brushed against the surface, cold and unyielding. She felt a surge of energy ripple through her. Break it, shatter it. The command roared through her, filling every crack and crevice of her being with determination. The rage for her children overwhelmed the darkness, momentarily blinding her. Enough! She screamed, palm pressing against the canvas, ready to unleash whatever lurked behind. As she braced for impact, the pit surged like a demon awakened, shadows screaming as they spiraled away from her grasp. But just as she felt the veil ripping, the world whirled, sending her tumbling into a darkness thicker than she could comprehend. What awaited in that unfathomable void? Could she save her children even as she felt the shadows clawing at her consciousness? As the last connection to reality slipped through her fingers, Sarah realized she was about to uncover secrets that might cost them everything or unleash something far worse. The chasm flared with terrifying light, drawing her deeper, and a voice echoed through the chaos. You think you can escape? You have already lost yourself, but are you ready to pay the ultimate price? The words rolled through the darkness, lingering with an awful promise. Would Sarah's desperate fight lead her to salvation, or would it bind her to the unending horrors that dwelled beneath? Sarah plummeted into the void, her body weightless, suspended in a darkness that felt alive. She gasped, lungs burning, the air compressing around her like a vice. Every instinct screamed for her to fight, to claw her way back to the surface, but there was no ground beneath her feet. Only the swirling blackness that taunted her with echoes of her children's cries. Lily. Max. Panic clawed at her throat. Where were they? She spun in the dark, flailing her arms, but only shadows answered back, swirling around like a thick fog, whispering her name in twisted, mocking tones. Mommy, please. The despair in their voices sent shivers racing down her spine. Each plea enveloped her, dragging her deeper into the abyss. Was this truly the realm of the lost, interconnected through their anguished cries? She felt their desperation merge with hers, and that connection made her feel unbearably heavy with guilt and fear. Suddenly, a light burst through the darkness, piercing like a needle, forcing her to squint. As she squinted, the light expanded, revealing a dim, cracked wall adorned with the very painting she had nearly shattered. It stood unbroken, an ominous reminder of her failure, pulsing with dark energy. It pulsed like a heartbeat. "Get away from it!" she screamed, thrusting her hands out, desperate to push against the unseen force drawing her closer. But an overwhelming current swept her forward, pulling her toward the painted figures that now seemed to writhe on their canvas as if they were alive. The mother and children stared back at her with wide, cold eyes, their expressions shifting between serene and tortured. The longer she looked, the more familiar their features became, as if unsettling memories flickered at the edges of her mind, a realization she couldn't quite grasp. "Why are you doing this?" Sarah shouted. "What do you want from me?" The shadows roared back, a cacophony of laughter that sliced through her like a blade. "We are you and you are us," the voice echoed, disjointed and haunting. "You think you can resist? Your children are lost, and so are you." The walls pulsed in response, colors swirling in patterns that made her stomach churn. The painting seemed to absorb the screams around her, swelling and contracting like a breathing entity. She fought against the force, the urge to flee becoming unbearable. "Lily! Max!" Panic surged anew. She felt their presence flickering like a candle's flame, and it made her blood boil with protective fury. It drowned out the shadow's laughter but also awoke a deeper fear, the fear of losing them forever. As she pushed against the tide, a voice within her took shape, clear, unnaturally calm. "You have the power, Sarah. Break the cycle." "What?" She blinked, as if emerging from a fog, the uncertainty washing away under the surge of adrenaline. The urge to break the painting solidified into a plan. It wasn't just a trap, it was a vessel. The connection to her children, to herself, to the darkness, all intertwined in ways she never understood. Fueled by a desperate determination, Sarah reached for the painting again, her fingers trembling as they brushed against the canvas. Suddenly, images flooded her mind, memories, both hers and those of the family in the painting. Joy intertwined with sorrow, laughter blended with tears. Unbidden, a horrifying thought arose: was this what it meant to be intertwined with darkness? Their laughter begged for release, but what if it meant severing the ties of love that had drawn her to them in the first place? The light surrounding the painting flared, blinding her. Her fingers dug into the canvas, and she felt its pulse quickening, as if anticipating a rupture. The moment hung in the air like a breath held too long, teetering on the edge of chaos. "Do it!" the voice commanded, an unmistakable urgency laced with fear. Could she really risk everything? Break the ties, shatter the painting, sever her children's connection? And what truth would that reveal about the darkness that bound them now? As her heart thundered in her chest, Sarah made her choice. The moment she pressed her palm into the canvas, pain erupted in a fiery blaze, a blinding light engulfing her vision. And just as she felt the universe quake beneath her, darkness devoured the light, swallowing her scream into an endless void. The cycle was about to reach its terrifying climax. Would the shadows reveal their true nature, or would they trap her forever within their grasp? Light and darkness clashed around her as Sarah was expelled from the void, thrust back into reality. She landed hard, pain jolting her spine. Gasping for breath, she blinked against the sharp light. She was back in the living room, the painting looming ominously over her, but something was wrong. The air was thick with a heavy silence, suffocating. The once vibrant colors of the painting were now stark, almost monochrome, a jarring contrast to the warmth of her home. The figures within the frame looked even more lifelike, their expressions frozen in a state of unending torment. "Lily? Max?" Her voice cracked, breaking the stillness. No answer. A chill crept up her spine. The echoes of their cries still lingered in her ears, but the house was empty. The weight of her decision crashed down on her. Had she truly gone through with breaking the connection? In trying to protect them, had she instead sealed their fate? "Mommy, we're scared." Her heart raced at the sound. Was it her imagination? Panic clawed at her insides. She stumbled to her feet, scanning the room as the shadows lengthened across the walls. Where were they? Her eyes darted to the painting, the figures seemed to writhe under her gaze, glancing at her with accusing eyes. Stop it! She shouted, feeling the darkness wrap around her like a suffocating blanket. She was losing control, then it happened. The painting trembled, colors swirling violently as a low growl vibrated through the air, shaking her core. The faces twisted, eyes wide with a sorrow that sent terror coursing through her veins. Look closer, the whisper slithered through the room, enticing yet sinister. With her heart pounding, Sarah approached the painting once more, hesitant to trust her instincts. The pulse of the canvas echoed in her ears, a dark drumbeat that beckoned her closer. As she leaned in, the vision of Lily and Max appeared, only now their faces were etched with horror. Were they trapped? Their tiny hands reached out as if trying to break through the confines of the frame. Mommy, help us. No. Sarah recoiled, staggering backward. She didn't know whether to break the painting or to leave it be, but a dark urge gripped her. It was as if the painting was feeding off her fear, growing stronger. The room seemed to warp, shadows coiling around her legs, pulling her down. You can't escape, they hissed, their voices swirling around her. Sarah spun to the door, desperate for an escape, but it was gone. She was trapped. The walls were closing in, the shadows thickening. Something was awakening within the painting, something darker than before. Mommy, a distant voice echoed, pulling her back to the painting. They needed her, yet so did the darkness that clutched at her very soul. She gritted her teeth, torn between the two worlds, the shadows and her children. No, she whispered, heart racing. I want to let you take them. With every ounce of strength, she charged at the painting, fists raised. In that moment of rage, realization surged within her, the pent-up energy was hers to wield, to command. The darkness wasn't just an entity, it was a reflection of her fear, her guilt and despair. Enough! She roared, feeling the surge of power ring through her. As she struck the painting, tremors of light erupted from her hands. But the shadows retaliated, twisting around her, pushing back with an insistent force. A blinding light engulfed her, igniting her surroundings. Everything shuddered violently, the boundaries of reality trembling like glass. She felt herself lose footing, being pulled in every direction. Sarah! A familiar voice sliced through the chaos, but was it real? Or had she conjured it from her own desperation? Mommy! Lilting voices echoed as screams and laughter became a single cry. Do you want us back, Mommy? What will it cost you? Her vision narrowed, and before she could respond, the world exploded in darkness, consuming everything. Would she have to confront the darkness within herself to save them once and for all, or would she be lost in the shadows forever? The questions hung in the air, palpable and heavy, as the fabric of reality began to fray. The darkness felt alive, pulsing with a malevolent heartbeat. Sarah fought against it, arms flailing, but it wrapped around her, cold and unyielding. It was a predator, hungry for despair. With every heartbeat, she felt her sense of self begin to slip further away, swallowed by the shadows that whispered seductions of sweet release. Mommy, please. The voices drew her closer, but they were not the voices she remembered. They had twisted, sharpened, turning into a sorrowful chorus that sent shards of glass slicing through her mind. Frozen, Sarah stood in the abyss, her breath shallow and frantic. Was this the price she would pay? Would she be trapped here, suffocated by a dark entity while her children remained tethered to the cursed canvas? Just then, a flicker of light appeared in the distance, a minute star in an endless void. It glimmered, flickering softly. It felt like hope, but doubt gnawed at her. Was it a lie devised by the shadows? Or maybe another trap to lead her to despair? Follow it. The shadows hissed, tightening their grip. Don't you want to save them? The urge to flee surged through her like electricity. With a cry that tore through her throat, Sarah darted toward the light. It grew steadier with every frantic step she took. I'm coming, she shouted, her voice echoing in the void, part challenge and part pledge. Each footstep fell heavily, the shadows gnashing in rage behind her, clawing at her heels as if they could pull her back into the depths. As she neared the light, it morphed into a doorway, gleaming and solid. Framed by darkness, it beckoned her with a soft glow. She paused before it, heart pounding. Was this entry to freedom, or into deeper madness? "No turning back, Sarah," she murmured. With a deep breath, she stepped through. The transition was jarring. Brightness flooded her senses, competing with the stale darkness that clung to her skin. She tumbled onto the living room floor, her living room, exactly as she had left it, yet, it felt wrong. The air crackled with tension, the painting still hanging on the wall, its figures caught in their torment, eyes searching, pleading. "Mommy!" The cries erupted again, raw and filled with fear. But now, they held a sense of urgency that gripped her heart like a vice. They weren't just trapped, they felt the weight of time, every second counting down like a ticking clock. Instinctively, she reached for the painting, but as her hand touched the frame, it burned like ice. Pain shot through her arm, rippling through her entire body. Images flashed before her, her children's faces morphing into masks of despair, their tiny fingers clawing at the glass. "Don't let them in." The shadows screamed, their voices twisting into a cacophony. "You won't survive what they want from you. Help us, Mommy!" A fierce determination erupted within her. Whatever the cost, she wouldn't surrender to the darkness again. Summoning every ounce of willpower, she focused on the bond she held with her children, the love echoing from the depths of her soul. "Get out!" she roared, pushing back against the shadows that clawed at her mind, shattering their grip. With a shattering glare, she faced the painting, ready to do whatever it took to reclaim her children, but then the room shifted around her, walls bending like reflections in a distorted mirror. The whispers grew louder, blocking out everything, filling her head with doubts. "Do you really think you can save them? What if you're the true monster here?" The chilling question resonated, and in that moment of hesitation, she felt the shadows begin to creep back. They wouldn't let her escape this time. As panic surged, she realized, the true nightmare had just begun. Would she have to confront not only the horror that ensnared her children but the darkness festering within her own heart? The shadows laughed, echoing through the room, as the reality she longed to save crumbled around her. Fear tightened its grip once again. "Mommy!" Desperate cries rang out, and she knew she had to act fast. Would she ultimately face her greatest fear, or would she succumb to the haunting secret that lay behind the very eyes of her beloved children? Sarah's heart raced as the shadows encroached, licking at the edges of her sanity. The laughter echoed through the room, chilling her bones. She staggered backward, desperately grasping for clarity amidst the chaos. "Mommy!" The voices cried again, their urgency pressed against the air like a vice. She could almost feel their tiny hands reaching out, warm and full of need. The floor, once familiar, felt foreign, each creak and groan signaling despair rather than security. She could taste the fear on her tongue, metallic and bitter. The painting loomed larger, as if it were a portal, sapping her strength. Why did the air feel so thick? Each breath felt like a struggle, pulling her down as the shadows whispered secrets meant to erode her will. "Why don't you join them? Embrace what lies beyond." But something inside her roared to life, survival instinct, love, or a primal rush. Whatever it was, it pushed her forward. She reached toward the painting again, fingers trembling, ready to scratch away at the desperate tableau. As her fingertips brushed the glass, the anguish surged anew. She saw them, her children, faces pressed against the other side, mouths wide open in silent screams. Frantic breath caught in her throat, she slammed her palm against the frame, feeling an electric shock ripple through her. "Get away from them!" she screamed, voice cracking, the anger flooding her veins like fire. In that moment, the painting shimmered, colors swirling violently, images jostling for space. A pulse of energy whipped through the air. She dug deeper, envisioning the love she carried, the embrace of bedtime stories and comfort after night frights. That love transformed into a weapon. "Mommy!" Their voices melded into a symphony of fear, turning into a shrill shriek that gnawed at her insides, but her own feeling swelled, louder now, drowning out the shadows. She wasn't just fighting for them, she was fighting for herself, battling the darkness creeping inside. "You're not monsters," she hollered at the painting, defiance rolling off her tongue. "You're my children." The room shuddered, a quake that rattled the very foundation of her resolve. The glass vibrated, rippling like the surface of disturbed water. Shadows shrieked in outrage, swirling like a storm, desperate to reclaim their prey, and in their fury, a crack appeared in the glass, spiderwebbing outward. A small, fiery glimmer started to break free as she noticed it, a thread of light that connected her to the heart of their suffering. "Sarah! Help!" came the faint, desperate call. In that fraction of a second, she had to decide. Was this a chance to break through, or would it lead to damnation? Would uncovering the truth of the painting tear her family apart forever? Without thinking, she thrust her hands through the crack, unyielding against the jagged frame, letting the light slice through her palms. The shadows shrieked in rage, twisting violently around her. The moment her fingers met the shimmering light, it exploded outward. A shockwave rippled through the room, blinding her momentarily. She gasped, heart hammering, stomach dropping. This had to be at the moment everything changed. But as the brilliance faded, something new emerged from the cracks. A figure, dark and amorphous, loomed behind the veil of glass. It pulsed menacingly, eyes glinting with malice. What was this thing ready to unleash? Her resolve, unsteady yet fierce, propelled her forward. "I will save them." But trepidation crept back, a cold sweat trailing down her spine. What if this was not salvation, but a deeper, more insidious trap? "Mommy," the voice echoed once again, layered with an unfamiliar tone that made her skin crawl. Was this fear, or had she unwittingly awakened something far worse within the curse of the painting? The shadows trembled, hungering for her despair. They whispered promises of sacrifice, weaving intricate webs of temptation. Sarah was caught on the cusp of her greatest reckoning. As the figure shifted closer, engulfed in the sinister glow, she knew she would have to face the darkest part of herself to confront this chilling nightmare. Would she emerge with her children or surrender to the shadows? Would the truths hidden within the painting unravel her sanity at a price she was not prepared to pay? The answers hovered tantalizingly just beyond her reach, shrouded in horrendous mystery. The darkness watched, waiting for her reply. The room pulsed with tension, the air thick with dread as the figure writhed behind the cracked glass. It loomed larger, simplifying the chaotic memories that had seeped from the painting. Sarah's fingers trembled, gripping the frame tighter as she tried to draw strength from the pain in her hands. "Mommy," the voice came again, ringing sweetly yet twisted, a chilling echo of innocence. This time, it carried the weight of despair, a haunting melody that clawed at her resolve. Just then, the darkness flickered, revealing a face. Was it one of her children? No, something felt off. The eyes shimmered with a cruel glint, and the mouth curled in a mocking smile. Sarah's stomach twisted. What if this was not her son or daughter, but something far more sinister? A shudder ran through her as the figure began to reach out, fingers elongated, stretching toward her through the jagged crack. "Just come closer, Mommy. We're waiting." The words dripped with malice, the tone shifting from pleading to threatening in an instant. She wanted to recoil but couldn't, her body rooted to the spot. The glow emanating from the figure drew her in, pulling her deeper into its sinister embrace. Every instinct screamed at her to look away, to escape, but there was a flicker in the back of her mind, images parading through, the laughter at bedtime, the soft whispers of "I love you." Those moments fueled her as she fought the dark embrace, the memories her lifeline amid the chaos. "No!" she shouted, pulling back. "I'm not afraid of you." Yet, each syllable wobbled as shadows snaked around her legs, whispering promises of what could never be. Loving, warm embraces and happiness ripped from the depths of her memory. They painted pictures of her children's faces, shining with sunlight that suddenly slipped into evening dusk. "Join us, Mommy," came the voice again, this time a greater chorus of whispers chiming in unison. "We can be a family. Stop. Just stop." The fervor in her voice grew. Heaving breaths echoed in the darkness, filling her with nerves. She was standing at the edge of an abyss, staring down into a never-ending pit that threatened to swallow her whole. The shadows twisted further, dislike churning in a horrifying ocean as they recoiled from the fierce light of her memories. Somehow their desperation fed her courage, drawing the strength to cling to what defined her, not the fear, not the dark. Yanking her hand back from the crack felt monumental, yet as she did so, she felt the cruel grip of the darkness fighting her. It clung like a cold sweat, gripping tighter than any hold the shadows had ever had. Why did it feel so liberating? In that moment of resistance, a sharp screech pierced the air. A crack of energy erupted, coursing through her like wildfire. "You will not take my children," she bellowed, vision swimming with light, but the figure ripped away, revealing another twisted reality, a swirling haze of past and future intertwining into horror. She caught glimpses of her children, but the reflection showed them warped and screaming into the void. Shadows danced around her as chaos unfolded. The more she fought, the deeper the shadows pushed her down. The full truth of the painting's curse clawed at the edges of her sanity, too real to dismiss, too horrifying to acknowledge. She could almost hear them calling out, almost feel their hands grasping wildly for her as behind the wavering glass, shadows turned and twisted around the figure, the fabled darkness cascading down like a storm. Then, just as quickly as it all began, the din ceased. Silence fell heavy, swirling doubts threatening to crush her. "Mommy," this time the voice seemed far away, echoing from a distant shore. With breath caught in her throat, she faced the encroaching shadows, their wretched forms coiling around her like serpents. What had she awakened? The unease clawed at her mind, drawing her into despair. But there was a flicker, hope still glinted, wretched but alive. Would she uncover a truth that empowered, or would it seal her fate? The room held its breath, shadows licking at her heels, waiting for the moment she would break. But Sarah stood firm, heart racing. Behind her, the figure loomed ever closer, its true intentions unfurling like a malevolent banner. What thing from the painting would rise next to challenge her? As Sarah stood in the suffocating silence, suspended between shadows and the glow of hope, everything hinged on her next move. The figure behind the crack in the painting swelled, its features distorting as it shifted, revealing more of the twisted horrors it intended to unleash. Each breath Sarah took ignited the darkness, their whispers curling around her heart like a vice. "Mommy, save us," the faint voices crackled through the air, fueling the shadows as they danced around her, pulling tight with each desperate cry. Indignation surged within her. She could feel the weight of their fear and despair brushing against her skin, mingling with her protective instinct. Enough. Her voice sliced through the chaos, breaking the grip of silence. "You will not take my children." The darkness recoiled, a tangible wave flipping the energy in the room, vibrating through the very fibers of her being. It was reflex. She thrust her palm at the painting again. The crack pulsed like a heartbeat, and for a moment, she saw her children's faces, fear scrunched in their little features, hands reaching towards her as the malevolent figure leaned closer, casting shadows over their innocence. "Mommy, help us!" they cried, their voices raw. But something cracked within her, surging her forward. "You will not have them!" she bellowed again, the power within her igniting like a flame, drawing strength from the depths of her soul. A bright light erupted from her, spiraling outward, rising over the dark tide that threatened to claim her. With each heartbeat, she took a step toward the painting, her fingertips brushing against the glass once more, this time ready to channel every ounce of love she had for her children into one explosive act. "I break this curse!" she shouted, words echoing as if they originated from the very walls of her home, filled with every ounce of defiance she could muster. In that instant, splintering light shattered the darkness. The painting vibrated violently, groaning under the strain of the awakening energy. Colors twisted and churned, illuminating the anguished faces trapped within, twisting their suffering into vibrant hues. "Feel the love, Sarah!" the shadows hissed, furious. It's too late, this is your fate. No. She cried, burgeoning strength pulled from the depths of her heart. You do not define me, nor do you define my children. It ends now. With a final push, she slammed her palm onto the glass, the impact resounding as if the very world shook, the connection within reverberating in every fiber of her being. Light exploded outward, a shockwave rippling through the shadows that filled the room with radiant energy. The figures in the painting screamed, their twisted forms undulating as the light clashed against their darkness. A crack snaked across the canvas, breaking the spell that had held it captive, liberating the truth. And then, silence fell. Sarah blinked, the air around her electric with tension. The room felt different, lighter, as if the shadows were retreating, whispering secrets dragged into obscurity. Her strength faltered, but hope surged, filling her heart as she felt a warmth envelop her. Mommy. That voice, that sweet familiar sound. The crack in the painting widened, light pouring through, revealing shimmering silhouettes just beyond. In a heartbeat, she was running toward the light, instinct guiding her faster than any fear. Lily. Max. She screamed, her legs propelling her forward as the fear inside faltered, the shadows subsiding, flailing against the rising tide of love that swept through the air. In an instant, she crossed over. The ground felt solid beneath her feet, the warmth of the bright light flooding over her like a gentle wave. She stumbled forward, and there they were, her children standing before her, their faces bright and relieved, arms reaching out in unison. Mommy! They cried, and she grasped them tightly, the sound of their laughter ringing sweet like a soothing balm against the remnants of darkness she had fought. But as she held them, a pang of realization drifted through her, a bittersweet understanding of what they had faced, what she had faced. The shadows lingered at the edges of her vision, no longer all-consuming, but real, a reminder. We did it. Lily beamed up at her, eyes wide and sparkling with innocence. As they embraced, Sarah took a deep breath, the scent of fresh air filling her chest. It was over, but she knew she would carry the weight of this experience. The cycles of darkness may never fully fade, but now they had the light of hope, the strength forged through love, holding them aloft. They turned together, seeking out the painting again. The colors were softer, the shadows woven into a tapestry of memories rather than torment. It no longer hung like a predator but seemed to shimmer with lessons learned, wrapping their family in intertwined narratives of love and perseverance. With strength renewed, they stepped back into their world, their home, where laughter should echo, not fear. As the sunset bathed their home in golden light, Sarah smiled down at her children. This was the light, she realized, the light they would keep shining, even in the face of the darkness that could never entirely fade away. Together she whispered, knowing she would fight for them, for their bright future, for the moments that mattered. And with that, Sarah stepped fully into their lives, hand in hand with her children, leaving the shadows far behind. And remember, this powerful journey deserves your support. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and keep our stories alive. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. And don't hesitate, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to show your support, and this is the moment. Don't wait even one more second.